Well, good evening. Good evening. How is everybody doing? It is Mind Matters Monday, and you have tuned in to R&R with Topazz. How's your Monday going, everybody? It's okay to sit your answers in the chat. Please respond. Let us know how you're doing. I'm hearing some echoes for some reason. Not sure what's happening. But how are you all doing out there? You have tuned into the Mile High City R&R with Topazz. This is going to be a great show. I'm ecstatic about it. It is, after all, the Love Month. And so with it being the Love Month, we are going to talk about love. That's right. For the next 3 weeks, we're going to be dedicating R&R to addressing Black love. That's right. We're going to be breaking it down, dealing with the various dynamics and aspects of Black love. And that's because I think that there are some people out there that think that Black love is not real. Black love is a myth. Black love is not something that is actually attainable or sustainable. And I'm here to defy that myth. I'm here to debunk that lie, because Black love is real. And so we're going to begin this 3-part series by talking about this evening. We're going to focus on the single scenario in Black love. With the love day, the actual love day is what I like to call it. I don't address it as the V-Day. I address it as the love day. Is coming up this weekend, of course, on Sunday. And so it just seemed appropriate to start with our singles, because so many times our singles get left out of all of the events and all of the happenings, all of the hoopla, and all of the exchange that's going on. It seems that all of the emphasis is dedicated to those who are in relationships, and those who are without a partner, without their God mate, their soul mate, however you want to see that, sometimes dread that day because all the emphasis is on being in a relationship. And so this evening, I want to spend some time really kind of taking a look at what do you do as a single person to ensure that you're getting the most out of not just that day or this month, but whatever the duration is that God has already predestined, or whatever you've decided that the time is that you've allotted your timeline to be alone, to be going through this phase of your journey without a partner, whatever it is that has influenced that decision. And then with COVID, of course, it hasn't really helped, because with the pandemic going on, it has forced a lot of people into isolation. Some people don't deal with isolation well. Some people don't deal with the lack of socialism and just being able to have human contact. We have all these virtual things going on, sure, and everybody's on Zoom and doing video calls, but there's nothing like being in the presence of another body, another human being, that energy that exudes from being with someone else in your space, when it's someone that you appreciate, someone that you enjoy being in the room with, being close to, in close proximity, even if it's not physical touching, just being in their space with that proximity of their energy feels good. There's an exchange, whether it's your BFF, whether it's your BFF and love mate. There's just something about being able to be in the space. And so when that's not an option, what do you do? And if you've made up your mind that you really would prefer to be in a relationship, what are you doing in the meantime? So all of those variables are going to be some things that we are going to be exploring this evening. But before I bring on my guests, I want to let you know that you are watching CTN Media. CTN Media is what? Black media. This is where we are changing the narrative. Tune in on CTN Media on YouTube. There are various programs, and they're constantly being added. And you can catch R&R, Release and Rediscover, at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time on Mondays. On Tuesdays, there's Seven Generation Black at 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Then on Wednesday, there is the Resource Report at 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. And all of that programming, and I think we've actually got one more. I noticed that Shay had a program this evening at 5 p.m. I don't know if that was just something that she did for tonight. Theo Wilson has something that's going to be added to CTN Media soon. So CTN Media is expanding. Subscribe and share, like. If you're watching on Facebook, make sure that you send up lots of hearts and likes and put your comments in the chat. If you're watching on YouTube, whatever the platform is that you're watching this evening, we want to be able to engage you in this process, because everyone could not be in the live broadcast, but what you have to offer matters, because it is Mind Matters Monday with R&R with Topazz. All right. So whatever your thoughts are about being single, whatever your thoughts are about the whole concept of love. And some of you are even asking, why Black love? Why not just love? We're going to talk about all of that. All right. So get comfortable, get you a nice glass of whatever it is that you prefer to drink at this hour in the evening, coffee, water, juice, wine, whatever that may be. Get yourself comfortable, put your feet up, and engage with us in this conversation. So without further ado, I'm going to bring my guests on board. Come on into the room. I am excited about this conversation. And I'm going to introduce you to these incredible, brilliant guests that I have that are going to offer some rich contributions to this conversation. All right. So we're going to start with to my right, as I see you on the camera, and the only gentleman that was brave enough to accept the invitation, because trust me, I extended the invitation to men, because my initial emphasis was on my sisters. All I could think about were the queens out there. And then it hit me on Saturday. I'm like, wait a minute. We cannot talk about Black love and singleness without including men in the conversation. We need to know what the men think. We need to have men contributing to this conversation. And so I put the word out, I solicited, and for whatever reason, you brothers just were not responding. So hopefully you're in the chat, you're putting your comments in the chat, because we still want to hear from you all as well. But I am so excited about the king that did respond, who accepted the invitation. It was a late invitation that was extended, but you know what? This brother is so globally rounded. And I do mean that literally in terms of what he brings. So this is a valuable asset, Mr. Ian Thomas, a dear friend, a very special king who just is so versed in so many areas. So Mr. Thomas, would you mind just kind of giving some background about who you are, what it is that excites you, what you do for fun, and what you do as a professional? You're muted. You got to unmute.
All right. Yeah, I am Ian. I'm a friend of Topazz. She's my sister, and a join to my family in a very special way. I'm a professional in the technology space. I basically am a distribution manager. I do international business for my company. It was a global manufacturing company. All that Topazz said, she left out the fact that I'm male and I'm flawed. So I'm glad to be here. I'm also the father of two boys and the young woman, and a very proud girl dad. Spent a lot of time with my daughter. We're very, very close, and my sons are very close as well. One is adopted, not my natural son, but I raised him, and I spend most of my 30s, 50s working in youth ministry. My love is for young people, teenagers specifically. I'm a little crazy because I'm more comfortable with teenagers than I am with adults. So that's kind of what I love to do. Socially, I'm an avid golfer, skier, and scuba diver. So that's a little bit about me.
Yes, he is. And he is amazing at all of those things. He's also happens to be one of my son's mentors. He has spoken life into my son and been a source of encouragement. He's also been a mentor to another young man that I've worked with over the years. And all of these young people whose lives that he connects with, he definitely adds life to them. So what a blessing. All right, so moving on, next to my left, we have Tanya Rosenzweig. And Tanya and I are dear friends, sisters by spirit, sister by nature, just organically connected and have been through some things together and just supporting one another. She's one of my prayer partners. And so without further ado, Miss Tanya, would you let the people know some things about you? And you're muted also.
Hi, I'm
Good
Tanya. That last name is Rosenzweig. Comes from my Polish Jewish father. My bio dad is a Holocaust survivor, so there's lots of history on both ends. What I do for a living, I am a therapist. I have 2 state licensed agencies here in the Denver metro area. I too, like the young man that just was talking. I'm sorry, I'll have to get your name again. But I too work with young people. Have a heart for young people. I have a group center for at-risk and high-risk girls, and so I do residential. I have a therapeutic environment, but yet a home environment. I've been doing that for a lot of years. I am a boy mommy. I have 4 sons and a ton of grandsons, and so have one granddaughter that's pretty new, and so I kind of like, it's kind of surreal because I just been boys all this time. So but that being said, I'm just excited about being here and given an opportunity and or a platform to just talk about my reality and being single. So
All right. Thank you, Miss Tanya. We do have another guest who will be joining us shortly. She's having some technical difficulties. And some of you may be wondering, well, where's Dr. Yemi? If you know Dr. Yemi, see, she is a bad mamma jamma. And she is an MD, works in the emergency room over at University Hospital. And unfortunately, she got called out to New York. So she had to fly out to New York at the last minute today. So she and I will be doing a broadcast together again in the future. So she was actually going to be my co-host this evening. And so, everything kind of works out as it should. In the meantime, we are going to go forward with our guests who are present. And so as soon as our other young person is able to get her technology together, then she will just jump on in. In the meantime, let's go forward. So let me ask this first question to you both. This first question is, what are your feelings about single? Let's just start with something real simple. How do you feel about being single?
I'm going to jump in and just say it depends on the day, depends on the hour. There's a plethora of emotion that's attached to my singleness. Today, today, I guess I'm sappy, and that's a little bit happy and a little bit sad. So, yeah, that's my feeling today. Because, like I said, tomorrow it could be something quite different, and yesterday was definitely different.
How was it different yesterday? What influenced, and what influences it when it shifts for you? Because you said it depends on the day. So what besides your hormones influences that?
So yesterday was different because I will be going to a wedding, and it's in South America. And all I could think about was going to a wedding in this wonderful, beautiful, romantic beach wedding and not have someone there with me. I have a beachfront room. I mean, so, the feeling was quite different. And those types of things is what kind of shifts my feeling. And I'm sure we'll get into some of that as well a little bit later about being content, but still having this plethora of emotion depending on what's happening, or what's not happening.
Okay. And so we're going to jump over to Egypt. Welcome, Egypt. We did some introductions. So before we go any further in the conversation, I want to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself, let the people know who you are, a little bit about what's exciting to you, what you do for fun. Let the people know who you are. And you're muted.
Okay, I am done with the technical difficulties now. So hello, everyone. I am Egypt. I apologize for my delay. As you can see, I'm still at work, but nonetheless, I'm here. So a little bit about myself. I am a writer. I have a lifestyle blog out. I am a city and county commissioner as well, so I'm highly involved in the community and looking forward to just networking and mingling with young women around the world in the local community. But yeah, just a little bit about me. That's who I am, and I'm happy to be here and join in on tonight's conversation. So thanks for having me.
Thank you for accepting the invite. And so the question on the platform right now is how you feel about being single right now. At this point in time in your life, how do you feel about being single? So I'll give you a little bit of time to kind of think about that a little bit, Egypt, and we're going to go to Ian.
Okay.
You're muted again. Yeah, it's wanting and freeing at the same time. I'm at a point in my life right now where I'm at the back end of a relationship that ended last February, and I basically used COVID as an opportunity recently to just get in touch with myself, to not date, to not get into another relationship. Mostly because of pain, and also because of some things that I did that I need to really figure out what I'm doing, right? So today, it's freeing. I don't think about dating. I don't think about getting into a relationship. I just think about, working with my kids and golfing and working. So I'm not really absorbed with a lot of concern about being single.
Okay. So are you looking forward to being in another relationship? Or have you decided that you would just prefer to stay single?
I'm looking forward to preparing myself to be in a relationship and be rightful, right? Because I realize I'm on the back end of also 8 months of therapy, right? Just because I felt a need to really just stop and go, okay, Ian, how do you do this right? What's going on? So I'm not really pursuing that. I'm just really enjoying the space that I've given myself to really reconnect with who I really want to be and who I really need to be in relationship.
And I really appreciate your acknowledgement of the therapy, because first of all, therapy has such a negative stigma, the stigma associated with therapy, particularly in our community, in the Black culture, with African Americans, with African descent in general, the idea, the concept of therapy. And for those out there who are really spiritual, whether it's Christianity or some other spiritual connection or association that you have, a lot of times the belief is that if I stay connected to my creator, if I stay connected to the universe, then I will heal organically. I really don't need the assistance of a professional to get me through my trauma, to get me through my pain, or for the wounds. And the reality is that all of those things collectively integrated work together to get us to where we need to be. So to hear a man, especially a Black man, to acknowledge that he's been in therapy and that you made a decision to do that. Now that you've done that, what do you think about the choice to take that step?
Well, I think it was brilliant on my part. Not that I'm brilliant, but after going through it, it was a brilliant move because it really helped me to really connect with parts of myself and the way I think and the way I acted and the things I did, to acknowledge them and to see them as a, whoa, dude, you were wrong. That just, why did you do that? So it helped me to really understand that, look, when I'm in a relationship, a few things I learned, that I'm going to honor that person by my actions. I'm going to respect that person. I'm going to trust them, right? I'm going to appreciate them and just show that in everything I do. These are not things that I thought about before. I just thought about, hey, man, she's beautiful. We're connected. We've got the synergy going. And in that time, you could do some stupid things as a man because you're not thinking about the other person first always. Yeah, I think I've learned to displace myself and put myself in a second position and to really be a servant in relationships. Okay. And I think I never thought of myself in that way before.
Wow, that's beautiful. We had a comment from one of our viewers. Claudette said that it was refreshing to hear a man say that he is taking time to rediscover himself before entering into another relationship. The other thing that I heard in what you said, Ian, what I heard was accountability, that you are through this process, through that journey, that you realized that there was some space where you needed to take accountability for some things.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I think that men or women have a tendency to spend so much time externalizing responsibility that we don't, especially when there's hurt involved, especially when you're still, bleeding from some wounds. It's really easy to make it all about that other person.
Yeah, but for me, it wasn't that. For me, it was what I did recognize before going to therapy is that I was the one that hurt the other person. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And short of repenting for that, and this is a very sweet, amazing woman who actually forgave me for that. But I needed to basically go, hey, how can I do this better? Because that was an amazing, beautiful person that I let fly away. Right?
And I'm a witness because I've met her several times and she is a very beautiful person. Absolutely. So Egypt, I'm going to go ahead and give you an opportunity to respond. You're muted.
I'm going to get it together. Okay. So the question was, what do I enjoy about being single?
No, how do you feel about being single now? How do you feel about it? Do you have any desire to be in another relationship?
I do have the desire. I haven't lost hope. As far as how I feel now, I feel amazing. I am discovering things about myself that I had not yet known. Aside from therapy, that was a great incentive for me, but it allowed me to really do some self-healing. So that being said, being single right now is being in a solitude has allowed me to figure out who I really am and what my desires are, and to really understand what 1 Corinthians 13 really means. How can I exude, this love, as well? So it's been, I'm enjoying the ride. I don't know. Can you guys hear me anymore? Or am I frozen?
I believe you are muted. Topazz.
I can't. I lost.
My turn to have to mute. For some people, COVID has been a nightmare because of the isolation, particularly for the single people, in a different way than people who are in relationships. Because also what's happened during COVID is that the divorce rate went up. There were a lot of breakups that happened during this pandemic over this past year. But for singles, since that's what our topic is this evening, for some, it was extremely difficult. And so my question to you is, for those times when it wasn't difficult, what was it that really made the difference to where you could use this to your advantage? And then when the times when it was hard, why was it hard? So we'll start with you, Tanya.
Let's see. So I've been single for quite some time. So the view is a little bit different from someone that has been single for just a couple of months or a year or 2 years. So for me, it's been 7. And this is single, being celibate. This is single, just not, you know what I'm saying, not engaging. And so the pandemic was particularly hard because I'm a caregiver. I'm always pouring into other people's lives, and you know that, and maybe some of the viewers know because they know who I am. But it's been particularly difficult because even now, more so than before, there's nobody to just be that physical, that hug. Because sometimes, so when COVID wasn't so live and in effect, at least I could get a hug, you know what I mean, from a friend. I could, you know what I'm saying, that I could spend some time with a girlfriend and just, you know what I'm saying, we could hug it out and talk it out. And so it's been particularly hard in that aspect. Now, how it's helped is because I'm kind of used to being alone. And so that's worked out, you know what I'm saying? Whether it's, having a cry session, talking it over with Jesus, and then, snapping back. That's been, like I said, that's been an asset in terms of knowing how to deal with that loneliness or, whatever. And particularly hard, the fact that I can't even get a hug from a friend. I can't have that connection. And I'm a very energetic person. I'm talking about energy wise. And so longing for even just the energy, the masculine energy, has just been, it's been rough for me. And I'm hoping that we'll be able to elaborate or expound on that, because I don't want people to think that because I'm good, but there's days when I'm not good, and it's okay to not be good. It's okay to, you know what I'm saying? Because I hear people all the time. I mean, I love my singleness, and I have embraced who I am. I love me. All of that's good. But at this point, I'm ready for that piece to be over. And I'm okay with saying that. I'm okay with not being okay.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that Black women, especially and particularly, we're good for saying we're good. I'm good. I'm single. I don't need this. I don't need that. I'm just not there.
And I think that's real for men as well. We as people in general have a tendency to just want to be good because we don't usually feel comfortable enough to be as transparent as we could be in order to be a blessing to someone else, to benefit someone else. We need to be transparent. So let's get into that, because the reality is that we are human beings, and we have bodies that have desires and have needs, and lust is real. The desire to whether it, and I'm using lust very carefully, because sometimes it's not about lust as much as it is wanting companionship. You talked about that masculine energy, and I spoke about that at the intro, just wanting to be in the presence of someone who just has a certain energy that makes you laugh, that validates you, that lifts you up. You know, there's just some people that just are all about speaking life, bringing life. They show up like Elizabeth did with Mary. And then all of a sudden, you know, there's some aspects of you that just come to life. And it's like, oh man, I am so glad you showed up. So let's talk about that, you know, and then how do you really resist some of those aspects of our physical body that say, you know what, I really would appreciate just, you know, having somebody spend the night. You know, I wouldn't mind being close and cuddled up to somebody tonight, wake up in the morning and roll over and be like, I'm that, hey boo, hey babe, you know. Let's talk about that, because that is real, and it's not easy to get into a place to where you talked about being celibate for as long as you have. So I'm gonna go to you, Egypt, with that question. And I want you to know that I was very intentional with regard to the dynamics here, because I know that for our millennials, it's a little different for people who are more mature. You know, your views and just your are different sometimes.
I don't know. Can you guys hear me? Because the connection is very, very bad over here.
Chanel, I don't know what happened. Okay, better now. You fixed it, whatever it was. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? There's an echo. Chanel? Can you guys hear me now?
We can hear you, Topazz, but we can't hear Chanel.
Okay, well, okay, I think she fixed the problem. All right, Egypt, you want to give it a shot? Thank you, Chanel. You handling your business. I love you, baby girl. Okay, Egypt, are you muted? Because we can't hear you. We can't hear you. Did you try to unmute? No, we cannot hear you. Okay, let me see if Ian, can you unmute your mic? Let's see if we can hear you.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you fine. So you want to respond to that question? Chanel, can you help Egypt? Because for some reason we can't hear her. And I believe she's saying that she unmuted her phone or her screen, but we can't hear her. Say something else, Egypt. Let's try it again. No. Okay, go ahead, Ian.
Yeah, could you repeat the question, please?
How you deal with the realities of what the physical body wants, what the physical body may desire when you're not in a relationship, when you don't have a partner.
Oh, so we passed the COVID question. Okay. You know, after my breakup, I was like, I did that. I'm good. And then it hit me a week later. And then I wasn't good. And then I made a decision to focus inwards. And the only hard time I had was when her birthday came around in May. That was tough because from November the previous year, and remember, we broke up after an exotic trip to Mexico, and then I'd planned something for her birthday, something huge. And so when that time came around, it kind of hit me really hard. And so in June, I went into therapy right after that, because the disappointment of that, of not having that person around and understanding that it was me, then I had to basically say to myself, dude, you're not doing this again. And most of my issues I've discovered in therapy with relationships have been birthed from fear. I basically had to learn to say no to fear. No, you don't have me. And so after that, really, it's been on cruise control, because it's just been really a lot of discovery during therapy, and I'm okay. I don't have not to say I don't have those yearnings, but they don't dominate me. I don't allow them to dominate me, and I've learned to say no to them, because I have greater work to do with myself.
Awesome. Okay, Egypt, you want to try it again? Let's see if we can hear you. Okay, okay, go for it.
I can only see you, Ian, and hear you.
Okay, that's not bad.
We can all hear you.
So I don't know where everyone else went, but I apologize, but I'm listening.
Okay, well, we can hear you, so you can go ahead and respond if you'd like to. Can you hear me? Oh, so you can only hear Ian and only see Ian. Interesting. Okay, T, anything else you want to say in response to that?
Something resonated when Ian was talking about him being okay and going into therapy. You know, I oftentimes, tell folks that there's no such thing as being in a healthy relationship if one is not healthy. And so it is really refreshing to hear a male say, you know what, I needed to do this for me so that I don't put another person through what I put them through, because hurting people hurt people. And an unhealthy person, so only in math does 50 and 50 make 100. It takes 100 and 100. It takes two whole people to be in a healthy relationship. And so, there's a lot to be given to this conversation about Black love. And even if we could, I don't know how long this program is, but I know someone said, why Black love? And I would love to answer that, but we'll get to that. I'll let you, continue to navigate where we go with this conversation.
Okay. Give me 1 second. I'm having to type the questions to Egypt because she can't hear. 1 second. Okay, so I want to propose a question to any of our viewers out there who may have a different perspective, because I know that we are talking to a very diverse audience. We are talking to people out there who really are like celibate. Are you kidding me? And I'm not trying to be celibate. That is not who I am. I don't, I have no interest in that. So if that's you, I want you to type your feelings or your perspective into the comments. Send your comment to
Ian, am I okay to speak?
Hold on 1 second.
Okay. What do I do to remain disciplined with my body needs? Is that the question? To be honest, I keep myself. Okay, I keep myself active. I am a mother of one, so I am constantly with my child as I co-parent throughout the day or throughout the week. I'm constantly involved in my word. I'm reading, consistently. I'm trying to stay active within my church. So those are things that, daily keep me, active and going and sane. I recently picked up an animal. So now I am, a dog mom. And so that keeps me active. I'm spending more time with my family and friends. So, and I'm also, enjoying writing. I put my thoughts on paper, so I'm highly distracted. I'm constantly busy. I'm constantly doing things, outside of personal life, working for the city as well. So, I'm constantly on the go. There's never a dull moment in my life right now. So I don't have time right now to, spend time with anybody else other than my child and immediate family.
So then my question, Ian, if you can let her know, my question to you then, Egypt, is how do you balance that? How do you balance that so that you're not avoiding, that you're not staying so busy that you're avoiding, and the real issue is still underneath all of the busyness? And anybody else can answer that question too if you feel like that applies to you.
Oh, she can't hear you. Egypt, Topazz is asking, how do you balance that with the underlying issues of what you call body discipline? How do you manage and balance all that?
Muted.
We lost you again, voice-wise.
Okay, either one of you, Ian or Tanya, do you find yourself staying busy to avoid whatever is really happening underneath, whether it's a desire to be sexual, a desire to be intimate, a desire to really feel like you belong in that you have a space in a different circle to where you're no longer the third wheel? How do you stay present enough to make sure that you're not covering that up with busyness and all these other things that any of us could be involved in at any time?
That's not so hard. I do, international business, right? And my days are extremely busy. I work from home, and I've taken up a lot of time to really connect with the young people in my family, which is global, Europe, Canada, the US, spend a lot of time talking to folks like that. And I get out the house and I'm an avid golfer. So I spend a lot of time with my local pals golfing. I don't find that to be a problem. I might have more of a problem re-engaging because it's I guess, for lack of a better
let me ask the question again, because I don't know that you really got the question. Because of all those things you just said, because any one of us, given what we do, everybody in this circle has so much going on in their lives that requires your attention, that requires your energy. How do you ensure that those things are not just covering up for where you really are internally, where you really are, where your heart is, where your spirit is? How do you ensure that you're not just avoiding? So Tanya, I'm gonna let you answer that, and then I'm gonna come back to you, Ian.
Yes, I am definitely a busybody, and I have my desire, my work, what I do, my ministry, all of it has helped me hide behind, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm too busy doing what I love to do, because my career is also my ministry. And so I have balanced that out by really taking a look at that and saying, you know what? I have to make space for what I want to have happen. So most recently, I'm doing that. You know what I'm saying? I'm making space and creating a space to be in a dating situation, to be in a relationship. Because at the end of the day, all these years I've been saying that, right? I want to be in a relationship, but I've been so busy. There's no time. And Topazz, you know that. You know what I'm saying? There was no room for anybody because I'm working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, And so, yeah. And so it has happened. And now I'm on the other side of that. I'm creating now a space for me to meet somebody or to be met. And I stay kept because I want more. I believe God. I believe the promises of God are yes and amen concerning me. And so it's easier to just stay celibate. Just be easy. You know what I'm saying? Because I want what I want. And I oftentimes say, I hear myself praying and thanking God that I waited. And I could say, God, he was well worth the wait. And I'm believing that his prayer will be the same. That God, she was well worth the wait. And so it's definitely been a balancing act. T. I can't say that, sometimes are easier than others. But finally, like I said, I'm on the other side of not allowing what I do from day to day to kind of fill that basket. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Of the desire. Right. So
because the reality is that it's easy to stay busy to avoid. And so you said something that's key, which is really what I'm trying to get at, is that if we stay busy, then when we do come into the space, into the introduction, into the presence of that one that God has for us, because I believe that God has someone for anyone who desires to be in a relationship. But you first have to desire that. If that's not your desire, then that partner is not there. But if you desire to be in a relationship, then we have to be cognizant of the space that we're creating. So when that person does come along, or you do meet that person, you have room for them. The space is there, and it's an easier transition into that. One of the things that I put in the description was the fact that depending on how long you've been single, that can be even more of a challenge. It can be more difficult because you have become accustomed and trained yourself a certain way. And then it requires a whole different kind of reframing and conditioning to now share and to come into the concept, come into the embodiment of what relationship really means, that it's about us, it's ours. And part of that really does require us to retrain the way that we think. We have a tendency, when we've been single for so long, to be very protective and guarded of ourselves. And if you've been hurt in the past, which I believe most of us have, whether it was the last relationship or 3 relationships back, or marriage back, whatever the case may be, then there has to be the time to cultivate and transition through that pain so that we're not carrying that over. So I want to give you a chance to respond if you want to, Ian, and then if not, we're going to shift over and talk about Black love.
Yeah, well, I don't think I'm masking it with work, because it's still there.
Okay.
Ever present. Interesting, you talked about past relationships, because like I talked about, me going into relationships with fear. That's based on my past marriage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fear. I have this innate fear that is driven a lot of things that I do, and until I recognized that, I couldn't defeat it, right? And so that's kind of where I'm at with that.
Okay. So I want to really kind of delve into Black love, because that's the theme this evening, with the subtitle being Singleness in the scenario. And then there's a 3-part series. So I'm going to continue to dig deeper into Black love. But let's talk about what that means to you and why. Why is there a need to put the emphasis on Black love and to spend some time really nurturing Black love versus just love in general?
Because Black women are the most beautiful creatures on this earth, from my perspective. I'm international, and I've been all over the world, and but I'm uniquely attracted to Black women.
Amen. Amen. Beautiful.
Yes. Well, I too have had the honor and the privilege of doing a little world travel and being in different cultures. And I had the opportunity to be in a space where Black men, honored my femininity. Like, they honored the feminine. And that was something quite different that I experienced in the States. And so I think it's imperative. We, as a so-called, because we know that that's a construct, but so-called Black folks, African Americans, whatever, we suffer, you know what I'm saying, because of the lack of relationships between Black men and Black women. And whenever we say that, we get that that, well, why is it? So it would be just like Black Lives Matter. Well, all lives matter. Ugh. If that was a factor, there would be no need for that.
Right.
And so I think that we need to start to unapologetically be okay with that. You know what I'm saying? With concentrating on Black love, because there's definitely a lack. There's definitely a disconnect, if you will, between Black men and Black women. And it's because of all the trauma. It's because of all the things that we've experienced over 400 years of what we experience and what we still experience, you know, with our brothers dying in the street, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that it's imperative that we showcase and highlight Black love. We're not saying anything about anybody else's love, but it's okay. It's okay to showcase and to highlight Black love. And it's necessary at this juncture in life, period. Then that's mine. You know, I'm unapologetically. I love us. And God ain't make nothing better than the Black man. And so I think it's imperative that we, you know, that Black women start to feel loved and protected and honored and all that good stuff. I think that it makes for beautiful relationships.
Amen.
Anya, I know you said 7 years, 11 here. So yeah. So when you say Black love, you know, I think of it outside of the romantic space. Okay. And I think based on what Tanya just said, we need to think of that more broadly. Black men to Black men, Black women to Black women, how we treat each other outside of the romantic realm, just on a respect basis, how we acknowledge each other, how we treat each other. You know, my sons were raised to open doors, and you know, mama should never have to touch a doorknob. There's a story I tell about my daughter. She grew up seeing this, how the boys are raised. And one time we're going into Gordman's, and her brother walked ahead of her grandmother, her mother, and me, and walked in, and she just stopped us and goes, "Wait a minute, Grandma." And she just stared the door down until the boy came back and knew exactly what he was supposed to do, because she knew that's how he was raised. That's brother, sister, right? So we need to think of Black love outside of the romantic realm and
Absolutely.
just each other's humans.
Absolutely, I agree. But to not discard that. But I think that if we get to that, I just said that I experienced that was not sexual at all. I experienced being honored as a woman, being honored as a female, being honored for my femininity. That was something that, like I said, was it changed my life and it changed my perspective. Had I not experienced that, I might be, you know what I'm saying? So, because I'm not, but yes, it's definitely bigger than that. But for the sake of this conversation and this platform about what we're talking about, that's what I'm talking about as far as Black love. But my God, it does extend definitely outside of the sexual piece or the you know what I'm saying, the intimate piece. I've also experienced here that there's some brothers that I've been around that I felt safe and I felt loved. You know what I'm saying? And they all have wives and girlfriends. They all have wives. They all have girlfriends. They all have, you know what I'm saying? It is nothing sexual, but I felt protected. You know what I'm saying? I felt loved. You know what I'm saying?
You know, we need to get to that place. And you put the emphasis on what it meant to you, the value, and having your femininity appreciated and honored. And in this time in which we're living in, unfortunately, there is so much emphasis on Black women needing to be strong. Black women, we're celebrated more for being strong and being, you know, engaging more in more of what a masculine or male role would be. We're kind of pushed into that. Some of that is because of so many households that are led by women, which was never what God intended. And so when you have a woman who is responsible for everything in the household, the maintenance, the, you know, the finances, the parenting, the providing, the, you know, all of the physical labor, all of those things, that it has a tendency to begin to wear down on the femininity, the feminine aspect of who we are as women. And it has a tendency to harden us. And so I think that we have to fight for our femininity. And the world has a tendency to really discard, at least in the American society, the European society, has a tendency to disregard and minimize our femininity. They will project on us anger, you know, that we're so angry and that we are so hard, and they downplay our beauty. So bless you, thank you, Ian, for acknowledging that and pronouncing that, of how you view Black women as being the most beautiful around the world and all of your world travel. And I think that I really want to encourage our women out there who are watching to fight for your femininity, fight for that inner self of yours, and be attentive, be more attentive and more cognizant of whatever it is that you have begun to evolve to over time through what your life journey has required of you, that's wearing down on that part of you that really is that beautiful woman. And it's okay to be fragile. You know, there have been a couple of incidents, world incidents, that have taken place where Black women have been targeted through racial hatred and violence. And even one incident were just through hate and violence because the perpetrator was a Black man. But nonetheless, how these women responded was really kind of, you know, not from a place of being a woman, but it was almost like a male part of them rose up, because when you go up against somebody who has a gun in their hand, what does that say? When you go up against a crowd of people, the incident that happened in LA, where all of those Proud Boys surrounded this Black woman and she went for them, those are not the things that we were intended to do. And so, you know, one of the benefits of being in relationship is having someone to protect us, having a protector. That is one of the things that God expects of the man, of the head of the household, to be a provider, to be a protector. We were never intended to have to protect ourselves. So I really wanted to put that in there. I'm going to give.
There's a couple of recent incidents, right, where the 9-year-old girl and the 15-year-old girl who were made by separate incidents, because they said the perception is that Black girls mature much faster than other girls, right? I'm going to be doing a talk with the men of RCF because of my experience mentoring young men, and one of the as you were talking.
Let me just say real quick, we've only got just a couple of minutes left. Okay. So I'm going to give you just, you know, if you can make your point in 60 seconds, I'm going to give you a 60-second close, and then I'm going to close this out. Go for it, Ian.
I have my boys do a pledge, and one of the last line of the pledge is, I am responsible for a girl's reputation the whole time I'm with her. Keep our young boys that.
That's powerful.
That is powerful.
That's 5 seconds, 10.
Go ahead. Go for it. You got 10 more.
That was it.
Okay. Tanya?
Oh, I just wanted to say that I'm excited, and I'm also, Ian, excited for the introduction. All things happen for a reason, and I'd love to connect with you once we get done with this. And thank you, Topazz, because you got it. It is what it is, and you know how, you know, God does things, and things just kind of fall into place. So I would love to chat with you on a business level.
And so, and I'm assuming that Egypt is not there because I don't see her. So I'm sorry, Egypt, if you're watching, that you were having the technical difficulties that you were, because I know you had some valuable contributions to this process. But I will definitely invite you back again. But I also wanted to say that we have to do a better job of just honoring ourselves. Yesterday, our pastor at Restoration Christian Fellowship, his word centered around loving your neighbor as yourself. And, that is one of the greatest commandments. The first commandments is to love your neighbor, love your God with all your heart and all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. And one of the things that I kept putting in the chat was that's difficult to do if you don't love yourself. You have to first love yourself. And I believe that as a culture, we suffer in that area greatly. So for me, that's another reason why I put the emphasis on Black love, because we are so lacking as a whole, as a community, when it comes to love, to truly, genuinely love, partly because, and the main source is the fact that we've been through all of this trauma as a people, and we're still experiencing the residue of that. But in addition to that, it's the side effects, everything that it left us with. And one of the biggest things that we suffer with that gets in the way of us truly loving, number one, is a lack of trust. We don't trust one another. We don't trust people's motives. Even when we try to act like we do, we are so guarded in how close we allow people to get. And then we don't even trust a lot of times, for those that are in relationship with God, you don't trust that God really loves you. You say it in your head, but do you really believe it in your heart? And then when you're in a relationship, trusting that that person loves you. But it begins with us loving ourselves. You've heard reference to therapy a couple of times this evening, and there's benefit. If you're struggling in that area, consider getting some support, getting some help to work through whatever it is that gets in the way of you truly accepting and honoring self first. Because who you are is what you draw to yourself. So be cognizant of that. Tanya mentioned earlier, hurting people hurt others. And that is so real. But the other thing is that we can never conquer what we won't even acknowledge exists. So take the time, as our brother Ian Thomas mentioned, to look in the mirror and make some decisions about where those flaws are that keep getting in the way of you truly having the abundance, because the abundance that we're supposed to have includes love. So this has been R&R with Topazz on a Monday Mind Matters evening. You have been watching CTN Media, Black media, where we are changing the narrative. We're here on Monday nights at 7 p.m. This is the first of 3 more shows that are going to be dedicated to addressing Black love. We're going to be looking at family, a Monday night that's going to be dedicated to the family component of Black love. And then we're going to get into some relationships. I've got some amazing couples that are going to be on, and they're going to talk about their relationships and their journeys in their relationships and their marriages. And then we're going to celebrate this at the end of the month with something really special that's going to be by invitation only. We are also, Shop Talk Live is hosting an event, a 2-part event that's dedicated to protecting Black women. So if you're interested in taking some self-defense classes, some self-protective classes, that is going to be happening on Saturday, the 20th of this month, and that will be at the Armory. And then at the first weekend in March will be some opportunities if you are interested in learning how to use a weapon, if you have one, or if you're interested in purchasing a weapon and finding out what kind of weapon matches you best for self-protection. We want to use wisdom, but not everybody is ready to have a weapon. So we want to look at that also. So those are some things coming that are going to be dedicated to really supporting this whole concept of Black love for community, family, self, relationship, and God. So thank you for being with us this evening. Again, this is R&R with Topazz. I'll be back with you on Monday. I say thank you again to my guests. Thank you for being with us this evening, both Tanya, Ian, and Egypt. And Dr. Yemi, I look forward to you being with me soon. Peace and blessings, everyone. Have an incredible rest of your week.